Hey everybody, today I'm going to make a cup and saucer. I've got 2 bits of clay. One's a bit over 500 grams, the other one's around 600 grams. I'm going to use the smaller one to make the saucer first, and we'll do a little bit of underglaze decoration on it as well after we've done the throwing. So there's a list of the materials that I'm using down in the comments, the description. So we'll get underway. So I'm going to move the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. And I'll just kind of talk as we go. So I'm just going to center this piece of clay as per usual. Turn the wheel on. So just centering as per usual. And I'll do some coning as well. My wheel's still a bit knocky, sorry about that. Wheels are really hard to come by at the moment, even new ones. Now because this is going to be the saucer, after I've centered it, done my coning a few times, I'm going to center it down low because of the form that I'm making. So I'm pushing it down low. Now I don't want to go too close to the wheel head. I'm just going to bring my finger across towards myself, keeping the water up to it so I don't stick and drag on the clay. So I'm going to flatten the base so we don't have ridges in there. That's also compressing the clay particles to avoid S-cracks as the clay dries. Alright, so now I'm going to go, I was doing all of that on full speed, I'm going to go slow down now to about half and bring out the sides of my saucer. Remember to take into account your shrinkage that you're going to have. Just tidy up a little bit under here. We will be turning it, but I'll just give it a little tidy up just to speed up the time between it drying to the right consistency for turning. Now I'm going to make a little divot in here for where our cup can sit on the saucer. So I'm just going to go, I can speed back up again now, and this is why we didn't want to make it too thin when we first opened up the clay, so that we've got room for this. Make sure it's reasonably flat so that our saucer our cup will sit flatly on it and not be wobbly. Okay, now I'm going to we'll do some decoration on it now before I take it off the wheel. So I'm just drying my hands, cleaning my hands a little bit because I want to grab brush with some underglaze. I'm just going to do a band of colour around the outside of the saucer if I can get the lid off. Oh, there we go. And I just am going to let the wheel do the work for me. That's it, that's all I want. I just want something really simple. And I might, when it gets to the leather hard stage, I might do a little bit of Sgraffito back through that perhaps. Think about that, and we'll get this off now so that we can do our cup. Now, I thought that I was really organised, but I think that I have forgotten. Yes, I have. To get something to support my board so that I can slide my saucer off. So, 2 seconds. Slide the saucer hopefully onto the board. So I'm going to undercut it first. Push some of that water underneath. If it misbehaves, we'll do the cup on another. Wheel. Here it comes. So close yet so far. Splash marks on there, but I'm not going to touch it while it's wet. I can tidy that up once it gets to be leather hard. So don't touch it while it's wet. So I'll put that over to one side, and we can now have a go at throwing the cup. Now actually, before I throw the cup, we're going to use some calipers just to measure that area that the cup is going to sit into. So I want it to kind of, be about there at the largest. So I don't want my base to be any wider than this. So these screw tight so that they won't move once we've measured it. So I'm going to put those over to one side, put this this over to one side. And we'll throw our cup. Clean the wheel head. And get our second piece of clay. Alright, so this is going to be a cup. I haven't really even decided what shape I want, but we'll see how we go. Okay. It's not very in the middle, is it? Try and get it as in the middle as possible before you start. Just makes that centering job a little bit easier. It's still not very in the middle, is it? There we go. So this one I won't be centering low because it's a cup, not a saucer. Broaden that base a little bit. Now I'm just going to flatten that base. Now I'll lift up my clay. So I'll go to about half speed now to lift up my clay. Steady the rim, gently take your hands away. Mop up any water that ends up in the bottom there as you go. So that looks okay. I'm going to give it a bit of a shape now. I think I might make it into like a bit of a V shape. And I'll just, so I'll need that to be a bit thinner, which is fine. By the time we turn it, that should be fine. But I will concentrate on that now. So by the time I turn this, that will be a good fit. Right, I just want to get a little bit more of a incline on that, so I'm going to go once more. you're happy with the shape. Take a bit off down the bottom. Try and keep that V happening. Now, I do like throwing rings, but because I'm going to put some underglaze decoration on it, I'm going to smooth them out. Just run the sponge around that rim just to round it off. You don't want any sharp edges on there because they will be more prone to chipping once you get it home. Okay, so I will do the underglaze decoration again, so I'll just wash my hands. So again, I'm just going to let the wheel do the work for me. Get some glaze on my brush. Decide where I want the band. Maybe around the rim. So I'll just hold it there. Now this colour will be a bit more vibrant once it's glazed and it's got the clear glaze over the top. The shiny surface reflects light, which makes it look brighter. I might do a little bit down the bottom here too. Will I keep it simple? I think I'll keep it simple. Okay, good. Apart from perhaps doing a little bit of Sgraffito through it when it's leather hard. So I'll do the video of that as well. So we'll do the video of turning and of doing the Sgraffito both at the same time when it's leather hard. Okay, so I'll slide this one off again. So again, I'm undercutting it first. Getting bored. Sliding it over here. Bit of water on the board. Okay. Whoa, nearly dropped it. Okay. Mop up some of this water so that it doesn't slow down its drying time to get to leather hard. And I usually put my pieces in polystyrene boxes simply because putting them in plastic can mark the rim, so I like to put them into polystyrene box if you're not going to be able to get back to it straight away or within the next few hours, depending on where you've got it stored, of course. Okay, so that's it. Tomorrow when we come back to turn this and the saucer, we'll also do a handle and some Sgraffito. So, well, it's been a few days since we created the cup and the saucer. So today we're going to make a handle for it and turn the cup and the saucer. So let's have a look. So this is the sauce, the cup. A little bit of the underglaze dribbled. So I'm going to just sponge that off into a straight line. I'll do that when I attach the handle, because I'll have water and sponges and what have you once we do that. And here's the saucer. We're also going to do just some simple sgraffito on these today as well through the underglaze. So the first thing that we're going to do is make a handle. So I've got just a little piece of clay cut off the block. I probably won't need that much. And I've got a container of water. So I'll put the camera down and we can make the handle. So I'm just going to shape this into a bit of a sausage. I don't think I need that much. I'm going to take off the embellishments. Just a rough sausage. And it's going to be a pulled handle. They just tend to look nicer on a thrown vessel. And I'm just keeping the water up to my hand so that I just lightly glide over the clay. This can take a bit of practice to get the pressure right so that you don't break the clay. So it's just a practice thing. Move your hand around, backwards and forwards. I like my handles to be flat rather than round. And I also like to create this little divot, which I'm creating with my thumb there. That will then react nicely once it comes to glazing. These are only going to be glazed in a clear glaze because I've got the underglaze and Sgraffito on it. But if I was glazing it a green glaze or a blue glaze or something like that, this effect looks nice. So that's it. I'm going to break off that end. We'll be trimming this later. I'm going to break off a little bit up the top here, and I'm just going to set it on the table and just leave it like that. I want it to firm up a little bit in that shape so that when we put it on the cup it doesn't flop. So that's why we've made it first, so that it's going to have time to set while we are turning the cup and the saucer. So set it in whatever shape you want. You might want a round handle, you might want a backwards C handle, sideways U, you might want something fancy. So whatever shape you want to end up with on your mug, just set it into that shape on the table. And how long you leave it is going to depend on how warm the room is that you're working in. So it's a pretty warm day here today, so this should be ready definitely by the time I've done the turning. We don't want it to be too hard. We want it to be able to be malleable enough to blend into the mug and all that sort of thing, but we don't want it to be floppy. Alright, so let's head over to the wheel and we'll do some turning. Okay, we're at the wheel. I'm on a different wheel today while my other one is getting fixed, hopefully, so this one won't be as noisy. So we'll get straight into it. So I'm going to do the mug first. So I'll just put the camera down so that we can see what's happening. So I'm going to recenter this on the wheel. You may recall when I was throwing these, as I was getting this off the wheel, it had a bit of a knock. So there it is. It's not too bad. I'm going to sponge those lines out when I attach the handle. I'm going to attach the handle here and just make that little tiniest of dint a bit of a feature with the handle. So I'm not terribly worried about that. So we'll recenter this on the wheel. If your piece was centered to start with, that will be easier to do, but if not, if you're just still practicing the centering thing and all that, we're just going for as close as possible. So I'm just going to steady my hand on the tray of the wheel, and I'm just going to turn it. Now there, it's not touching my hand. Hang on, I'll just move my hand. It's not touching my hand here. It is touching my hand here. So I'm going to move that where it's touching my finger. I'm going to move it away a little bit. And I'm just going to keep doing that until I get it to the point where it's touching my finger evenly all the way around. That's when we'll have it on center. So that's pretty good now. It's touching my hand evenly all the way around. So make sure you steady your hand on the tray so that you can keep it completely still. Once you're happy with that, I'm just going to make 3 little sausages to anchor it onto the wheel head. Just curve it a little bit to follow the form of the mug. And I don't want to distort my rim, so I'm pressing down onto the wheel head, not into my cup. And just evenly all the way around. Feels good. I'm going to go about half speed while I'm trimming this. I don't have a lot of thickness in here, so I don't need to do a lot of turning. I should have shown you how to assess that before I put it down, but I will show you when I take it back up again. So, about half speed. And this is a good consistency. It's trimming off really easily, not too dry, not too soft. Something that I forget. I forgot my metal kidney, which I want to use to smooth out the rings here. I want to keep it nice and smooth so as not to distract from the Sgraffito design. So just so it's not too busy. And I'm also going to double check my measurement here with my calipers to make sure that it's going to fit in the saucer. So they're just out of my arm's reach. So 2 seconds and I will grab those 2 things. Okay, so before I do any more turning, I'm just going to just check this. So get my, and you can see that that is going to fit in there nicely. So I don't need to take any more off the sides. It would if it was really thick, but it's not, so I don't need to. So I'm just going to make a little just to give the cup a little bit of elevation, just so it looks nice. And I'm just going to, it's flexible, so I can mold it to the side of the cup, the shape, and just smooth out those turning rings. I'm trying to decide whether I want to keep that spiral. I think I might keep the spiral here. It looks nice. Little surprise underneath the cup. So that's it for the cup. Now, before I put it down, what I should have shown you was a way of assessing how much thickness you've got to trim off. So basically, this one's a bit too long for me to be able to reach all the way down. So I'm going to have to do it with two hands. And don't look at it, because eyes are deceiving. Your eyes will deceive you. So kind of look away and just try and visualize in your head the thickness that you've got there. Now it's easier with a smaller object. Let me see. I haven't got anything on, but you'll get the gist. So if you've got a smaller object, you can put your fingers all the way to the bottom and feel that edge. And that's a much easier way if you've got a smaller object. It takes practice, but you'll visualize how thick it is and how much turning you need to do. Whereas this one, my fingers don't reach all the way down there, so it's a bit more difficult. So two hands, one on the inside, one on the outside, and just get a feel for how thick that feels. Okay, so now we'll do the saucer. Same thing, I'm going to turn it upside down. Recenter it, so I'm just going to use the circles on the wheel to get it as in the middle as possible visually, and then I'll test it by putting my hand on the tray and testing it. And that feels pretty good. It's touching my fingers evenly all the way around. So I'll put my sausages on, same as before. And we'll turn it. Just tidying up the edges really. This from the bat, there's a little lump of clay here where it's a little bit raised, a little bit higher than over here. You can see where it came off the bat there. That's that bit of clay there. So in terms of trimming the base here coming across, this is a little bit higher. I'm just going to manually just even that out a little bit before I actually do the turning, just to make it a bit easier, so you haven't got a little lump in it as you're going around. And starting in the middle and just slowly coming across and keeping your hand nice and even. the spiral of this one too. Okay, so now, even though it is warm in here today, I don't think that my handle will be quite ready just yet. So we'll do a little bit of the Sgraffito first while we're waiting. And I will run a sponge around that rim, but I'll do that last. Okay, so I've got a Sgraffito tool here. I'm just going to do a series of simple lines, and this tool has got, it's like a little arrow, so I'm going to make 2 lines at a time. And I don't mind if it doesn't turn out perfect, because it's handmade, and if there's a little imperfection, that's the maker's mark. So I'm just going to hold my, I'm going to turn the wheel off so that I don't accidentally put my foot on the pedal, and I'm just going to choose a point, and I'm just going to slowly come up towards myself. Now you've got some little burrs there which can be brushed out once it's dried. I'm going to go now opposite, directly opposite, and I'm always supporting my hands so that I don't get the wobbles up. No burrs on that one. And divide it into quarters now. And eighths, and just keep going around until you've done as many lines as you like. Now you can be fussier if you like and measure it all out, that's fine, but I prefer it to be more handmade looking, because it is. So a little imperfection here and there is not a problem. Okay, that's all I'm going to do. So put that to one side, and I'll get the mug, and we're going to do the same. Oh, but I wanted to clean up this. So, but I will do that when I do the handle, because that's not going to interfere with my Sgraffito. down a bit of a cushioning for the cup. Okay, all right, so same thing. Straight down. And now I'm going to go directly opposite. So I'm going to eyeball that to being, you can use a tool if you like, you can be as precise as you want, but I am just going to eyeball it at being about here where my finger is. And now I want to go in the middle of those two. So I'm going to go here. And in the middle of these two, which should theoretically be opposite this one. So I'm going to go here. And now I've got a visual on these now, so I can just work my way around the mug. I'm not putting any pressure on the mug because I don't want to squish it, because even though it's leather hard, it is still able to be distorted. So I'm not putting any pressure on it. I'm using it slightly to steady my hand, but I'm not leaning down on it. I'm just resting really lightly on it to steady my hand. And I think that, yep, that is enough. So we'll go and check the handle. I might bring it over here, and that will save moving the camera again. So I'll be right back. Okay, so the handle is not quite ready yet, so I'm going to tidy up this little dribble and run a sponge around the rim of the cup and the saucer just to tidy them up a little bit, and I'll sign them, and then hopefully by then the handle will be good to go. So I'm not introducing a lot of moisture to this. It's a really well squeezed out sponge, and I'm just going to clean off that underglaze. Doesn't have to be a perfect straight line. And if I hadn't been doing Sgraffito on it, I wouldn't have worried that it had a dribble on it. I would have just let that stay there. But because of the Sgraffito, I wanted a cleaner line. So that will do just fine. And I'll also smooth out this line from where it almost fell off the wheel when I was taking it off. Normally I throw on bats, but for this demonstration I just threw directly on the wheel head. That has smoothed it out a little bit, but I'll work on that more once I put the handle on and see where the handle's positioned. So now I'm going to run a sponge around the rim just to smooth that off. Being really careful, I don't want to damage my underglaze. Really well squeezed out. And because I don't want to damage my underglaze, I'm not doing it this way from the outside, I'm doing it from the inside. Okay. Because you want a nice smooth rim to drink from. So we'll do the same thing now with the saucer. Just, see it's already, I can see a little bit there that we need to smooth off. Because that's a little bit chunky, I'm just gonna gently smooth over it. There we go, that's a bit easier. Okay, and just go around and just smooth out any little areas that don't look 100%. If you've put a little nail mark there or something, now's the time to smooth it out. And you want to do as much smoothing as possible here at this making point so that you can avoid dry sanding later, which is not good for your health. Because there's silica in the dust. So you want to avoid that as much as possible if you have to do it. Like I've got a couple of little burrs here, but I won't be sanding them, I'll just be brushing them off with a paintbrush, and I'll be brushing them into the sink. Which has got a clay trap under it, so that they're not going to be floating around and on the floor turning into dust. So if you must sand, either wear a mask, or well, wear a mask and do it over the sink or over a container of water so that it catches your dust, and then you can just dispose of it. So I'm not going to touch any of those burrs now, I'm going to wait until it is dry. Okay, so they are smoothed out. I will sign them. And then hopefully the handle will be good to go. I'll just put the camera down while I sign them. Picked up a little bit of clay from the desk. Okay. On the other end of this Sgraffito tool, it's more of a pointy end, so I'm going to use that to sign it. So I hand sign all of my work. I don't have a stamp. So, and again, this will create burrs, which I'll brush off when it dries. bat so it doesn't pick up any little specks off the bench. Okay. Alright, let's see how this handle is going. I'm going to try and just brush off a few of these because to do the handle I want to turn the cup up the other way. So if any of those burrs get lodged into my signature, I'll just go back over it. Alright. Let's see what this handle is up to. Hopefully it's okay. So I can tell that when I put it on, it's not going to sag. It's holding its shape. So I think it will be good to go. Normally I would have it a little bit harder than this, but to save waiting, I'll see how we go. So this end bit is a little bit chunky, so I'm going to cut some of that off. Knife, and I'm going to cut it on a 45-degree angle this way. So 45-degree angle. I'll just pat that out into a nice little shape there. I don't want to impact on this ridge that I created before. Okay, so now I'm just going to decide where I want my handle, where on the cup I want it. So I know that I want it on this side where that dint is. So I might try to do the attachment just below my underglaze and then loop it back down around. So let's see how that goes. So I'm going to put my tea towel down again. And with my Sgraffito tool, I'm going to score where I'm going to put the handle. I've got some water here. I'm going to dip my Sgraffito tool in the water so that it's wet. And just score under here. I'm making just cross hatching. Get a bit more water, just so that you slurry up the surface a little bit as well. And I just want to blend that in. Alright, let's get this one on and then we can... So I just want to kind of see how the proportion will look, where I want the handle. Okay, I think I'll take a little bit of that off, so I'm just going to just break a little bit of that off. Now I'm going to score under there. And I also want to make sure in a straight line with the top join. So you want to make sure it's straight that way, so that it's not kind of like, you know, over here somewhere. So just eyeball that and make sure it's nice and straight. And then again, we'll blend that in. So then it's just a matter of working the clay in and tidying it up so that it looks nice, and you want to give it a good blend also because you want it to have a nice strong join. You don't want to be having a cup of tea one day and the cup comes off and you're left with the handle in your hand. Because your handle has to also bear the weight of the full mug. So you want to make sure that you've used lots of slurry and you've given it a really good blend in. And you want it to be seamless so that it looks like it's part of the mug and not just something that's been stuck on as an afterthought. The sponge came off. All right. Just put my fingernail in it. Luckily, it's easy to smooth out. Again, you want to get this as smooth as possible during the making stage so that you can avoid sanding. To smooth out any little ridges, try and do all of that now as much as possible. Just noticed a little bit in the middle inside here that I can do with a smooth. Get that done as well. Okay. So it's supporting its shape, it's not sagging, so that's what we wanted. So let's have a look at how it all looks together. So fix up the burrs. So that fits nicely in there. I've just seen another little nail mark. Now I might bring the camera down a bit so that you can kind of see it from a straight on angle. Okay, so I've got the camera down so that you can have a look at the end result on more of an eye level view. And it's looking quite good. It's turned out nice. It should be really nice when it's glazed. So when it has been glazed and it's all finished, I'll put a photo of the end result on my Facebook page and Instagram page. So check those out. The links to those are in the description, and if you want to see more of these videos that you've looked at today, that would be fantastic. It would be much appreciated. So subscribe, like, and hit the bell to get notifications, and then you won't miss any upcoming videos. I'm planning to hopefully do one every week. That's the plan. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.